is an ABN and why is it important? You would be surprised how often I get asked about these. It's such a tiny detail. It's really easy to get right. People seem to either totally ignore it or otherwise overemphasize its significance. So today, the rundown on ABNs. So if you are involved in any kind of commercial enterprise in Australia, if you have an organisation that does any kind of business, the law requires you to have an ABN. So an ABN, that stands for Australian Business Number, by the way. It's a unique 11-digit identifier that's issued by the Australian Business Register. That's an agency that's operated by the ATO and is part of the federal government system for managing GST. So when you're entering into a contract, of course it's important to get the party names right. And while you're doing that, you should try and get the ABN of both parties correct as well. There's a really good reason for that. The reason is the Australian Business Register is a public register and you can go along there and look up anyone. You can look up any ABN. There's some information there. It's not a wealth of information, but there's a few nuggets that are actually usually pretty handy to know. Really importantly, often the face of the business is a trading name. It doesn't tell you anything about the entity that's actually operating the business. So you can look up the ABN or the trading name, in fact, at the moment on the ABR, and it will tell you what kind of corporate entity sits behind the trading name. So is it a government agency? Is it a not-for-profit? Is it a sole trader? You'll get to know that information. And that can be particularly important if you are entering into a transaction with a business that's operated as a trust. So a trust isn't a legal entity. You're going to enter the contract with the trustee, but the trustee is not going to be responsible for delivering the promises in the contract in its own capacity, only in its capacity as a trustee. So you might want to know, like, does the trust have enough assets to pay your bills or to do whatever it's supposed to do under the contract? And if that's the case, you might also want some extra warranties in your contract. So that's a good thing to know. You can also find out things like, is the business registered for GST, which is important in some industries? And also, is it a trading name or does it have other trading names? Like, are there other parts of this business that you don't know about that you might want to know about? And when you are dealing with the ABN and getting it right, you should try and get it right across all of the transaction documents. So on the contract, on the purchase orders, on the insurance certificates, wherever you need to sort of make sure you are identifying that you're contracting with a particular entity, you should get the ABN right. There actually are there's quite a bit of case law that says that if there are defects in your ABN in government licensing documents or on the Personal Property Security Register, it can actually cause, that license to fail. So it's a really easy thing to get right, so you should get it right. So there you go, the rundown on ABNs. Thanks for watching. See you next time.